From Shireen Baratheon being burned alive, to Oberyn Martell getting his head crushed by the mountain. Here are the characters who did not deserve to die in Game of Thrones. Ned Stark. Ned Stark was the Lord of Winterfell, known for his unwavering honor, sense of justice, and loyalty to family and kingdom. When King Robert visited the north, he requested Ned to come to King's Landing as Hand of the King, since he needed someone he could trust by his side. Also, the last hand dying mysteriously, Robert suspected danger rising in the capital, and wanted his old friend by his side.
You helped me win the Iron Throne, now help me keep the damn thing.
When Ned arrived in King's Landing, he discovered that the previous hand had been investigating the royal children before he died, provoking Ned to begin his own research by studying the Book of Family Histories and visiting Robert's bastards. And it wasn't long before he discovered the truth about King Robert's children, namely that all of them were bastards, between Cersei and Jaime, no less.
You love your children?
With all my heart.
No more than I love mine.
And they're all Jaime's.
Thank the gods.
Torn between loyalty to the crown and his moral compass, Ned attempted to expose the secret and protect the realm. But before he could talk to Robert, he passed away during a boar hunt, leaving him in a difficult position, where he had to place his trust in Peter Baelish, one of the most deceptive men in King's Landing. Unfortunately, and predictably, Baelish showed his true colors and betrayed Ned at the last minute, leaving him to Cersei and Joffrey's mercy.
I did warn you not to trust me.
Locked in the dungeon, Ned was given the impossible choice to either die in honor or confess to betraying the king and spend his remaining days in the Night's Watch. Realizing both Sansa and Arya were in danger being in King's Landing, Ned ignored all his honor and chose the wall instead to protect his children. When the day finally came, Ned was taken to the Great Sept of Baelor as a prisoner, and he confessed to treason, speaking words that he never meant but said only to protect his daughters.
I come before you to confess my treason.
For a moment, felt like Ned would be spared just as Varys promised, but Joffrey's sudden change of heart changed everything. Instead of showing mercy and staying true to his word, he ordered Ned's execution. Cersei understood the implications and tried to stop Joffrey, but the cruel young king wanted to make an example of Ned. While Sansa screamed for his life and Arya pushed through the crowd to reach him, Joffrey's command to Sir Ilyn shattered the tension in an instant.
Sir Ilyn! Bring me his head!
And with one heart-stopping order, Ned was executed while both of his daughters watched in pain. Ned's death sent his daughters' lives spiraling into endless chaos and danger. Sansa was forced to stay in King's Landing, tortured and ridiculed, while Arya was forced to run, marking the beginning of a brutal journey of survival and revenge. But what if Ned never confronted Cersei and instead quietly gathered allies within King's Landing, including Varys and Stannis Baratheon? Had he kept his position as Hand after Robert's death, he could have slowly weakened the Lannisters' grip on power and eventually helped Stannis claim the throne. Ned could have survived through diplomacy, with him alive, and all his children might have remained safe, and the Starks could have been saved from years of suffering and chaos. Catelyn, Robb, and Talisa Stark. After Ned Stark's execution at King's Landing, Robb became the new Lord of the North.
From this time till the end of time, we are a free and independent kingdom.
The king in the north.
Robb joined the War of the Five Kings to avenge his father, but he needed to cross the Twins, which were controlled by Walder Frey, to reach King's Landing. However, Walder made Robb promise to marry his daughter in return for safe passage. Robb agreed at that time, but later met Talisa on the battlefield, and both of them fell in love. Their marriage infuriated Walder, and he withdrew his support for Robb. When the Starks' mission began to fail, Catelyn convinced Robb to make a peace offering to the Freys in the form of Edmure Tully's marriage proposal for his daughter. Walder accepted the proposal and invited the Starks to join the celebration. And in the beginning, everything seemed normal, until Catelyn saw Black Walder closing the door of the Great Wall. The next moment, Walder stopped the music and addressed Robb.
I feel I've been remiss in my duties. My king has married, and I owe my new queen a wedding gift.
And when Catelyn saw Roose Bolton's armor, all hell broke loose. Walder signaled his men to start killing the Starks, just as Lothar Frey stabbed Talisa from behind. He attacked her repeatedly, killing both Talisa and her unborn child. Robb was also badly injured, left in shock at Talisa's murder. Catelyn was desperate to save her son and grabbed one of Walder's wives, putting a knife to her throat. Robb knew that Lord Frey wouldn't stop now, so he called out to Catelyn just as Roose stepped in and said,
The Lannisters send their regards.
Catelyn had tried to stop Walder, but he didn't even care about his wife. But with Robb dead, Catelyn didn't think before slitting the girl's throat. And only moments later, one of Walder's men slit hers. The Red Wedding left the North leaderless and vulnerable, allowing the House Bolton to take over as Warden of the North, and with Robb gone, the Lannisters secured total control of the Seven Kingdoms. The Freys also enjoyed temporary power until he was assassinated by Arya Stark. But what if Walder didn't break the sacred guest right tradition? If Robb stayed alive, the Starks would have become more powerful, and with Catelyn acting as the house's political mind, more houses would likely join their alliance. Robb could eventually defeat the Lannisters and even place the rightful Baratheon on the throne. Oberyn Martell. Oberyn Martell, also known as the Red Viper, was a Prince of Dorne who came to King's Landing to avenge his sister Elia, who was assaulted and killed by Gregor Clegane. So, when Tyrion demanded a trial by combat during Joffrey's murder trial, Oberyn saw it as the perfect opportunity to get his revenge on Gregor.
I want to bring those who have wronged me to justice. I will be your champion.
When the fighting finally started, Oberyn clearly had the upper hand. He was fast and precise, living up to his name of the Red Viper, meeting the Mountain blow for blow, hell, exceeding him. But while he wanted to finish the man who killed his sister, he also wanted his confession.
Say it. Say her name. Elia Martell. You raped her. You killed her children.
But Gregor refused to admit the truth. Then in one swift moment, Oberyn cut his leg and drove his spear through his chest, sending the Mountain crashing to the ground. Instead of finishing him then and there, Oberyn kept demanding a confession while pointing at Tywin, asking him to reveal the person who ordered the murder.
Who gave you the order?
Oberyn's single-minded desire for that revenge, for justice for his sister, turned out to be a mistake. Leaving the Mountain alive, hunting for that confession, caused him to become a little less careful than he should have been. And when Oberyn got close enough, the Mountain pounced, tripping Oberyn over, and in a single moment, the fight changed completely. Gregor pinned Oberyn to the ground and crushed his head with his hands while confessing.
Elia Martell! I killed her children! That I raped her! That I...
Oberyn's partner, Ellaria Sand, screamed, unable to believe what she had just witnessed, while Cersei smiled at the thought of both her enemies, Oberyn and Tyrion, meeting their ends. Oberyn's death almost sent Tyrion to his own death, and triggered a chain of events that eventually wiped out House Martell. But what if Oberyn killed the Mountain instead? Tyrion would walk free and perhaps never end up on this run or join Daenerys. The fight with the Mountain could push Oberyn into open conflict with the Lannisters. Driven by vengeance, Oberyn could then join Daenerys himself, offering her a powerful southern alliance and a massive Dornish army. Ygritte. Ygritte was a wildling who first crossed paths with Jon Snow during a Night's Watch mission beyond the Wall.
What's your name?
Ygritte.
Jon captured her, but when Qohorin Halfhand ordered him to kill her, he hesitated, a mistake that changed everything. Ygritte escaped, and as Jon chased after her, he became separated from his brothers and walked straight into a wildling ambush. What began as imprisonment soon turned into an undercover mission to infiltrate the Free Folk. But along the way, Jon and Ygritte fell genuinely, deeply in love.
How old are you, boy?
I'm a man of the Night's Watch.
You're a boy who's never been with a girl.
Ygritte showed him a world Jon didn't even know existed. Their most intimate moment in the cave behind the waterfall was when Jon finally broke his vows and slept with Ygritte. For a short time, the war, the wall, and his past didn't matter. Their on-screen romance was so exciting that both characters fell in love in real life, eventually getting married in 2018. But in the show, Jon eventually returned to the Night's Watch, leaving Ygritte heartbroken and furious. So when Mance Rayder marched south to attack the wall, she joined the assault, driven by hurt and betrayal. During the battle, Ygritte was swift and deadly. She shot down several brothers of the Night's Watch with her bow, but when she finally spotted Jon, she paused despite her anger. The two lovers locked eyes, and in the next moment, an arrow struck Ygritte through her heart. Jon was frozen in place, unable to understand where the arrow came from, and then he turned to see Ollie holding the bow. The young boy thought he had saved Jon from Ygritte's attack, not knowing that he had just killed the woman he loved. Jon rushed towards Ygritte just as she fell to the ground.
Do you remember that cave? I should have stayed in that cave. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
And Ygritte's story ended just like that. Ygritte's death changed Jon and made him even more determined to save the Free Folk from the White Walkers. But what if Ygritte survived the attack? If she lived, Ygritte would follow Jon after he became king in the north. The Northerners would distrust her initially, but she would win them over with her bravery and loyalty. She could help Jon unite both Northerners and Wildlings, creating a stronger front against the White Walkers in the Battle of Winterfell. Though I wonder how things would have worked out with Daenerys. Perhaps a topic for another video. Shireen Baratheon. Shireen was Stannis Baratheon's only child, and even though she suffered a lot in her childhood because of grayscale, she was a kind girl who loved her family dearly. And even though Stannis was especially close to the little girl, his ambition to become king came before everything and anything else. After Robert's death, Stannis believed he was the true heir of Westeros, so he marched towards King's Landing and even killed his own brother Renly with the help of the Red Priestess to ensure he was the one who sat on the throne. However, Stannis ended up losing most of his ships and soldiers at the Battle of the Blackwater, when House Lannister and Tyrell joined the enemy forces. After his defeat, Stannis went to the wall to gather more men for his cause because Melisandre believed he was the only one who could defeat the White Walkers. He reached Castle Black just in time to save the Night's Watch from Mance Rayder's attack. His forces crushed the Wildlings, and Stannis offered them a choice to bend the knee or die. Thousands joined him as he marched to take Winterfell from the Boltons, another strategy to rally support for his claim.
No matter. I shall take back the North from the thieves who stole it. Tywin Lannister is dead, he can't protect them now. I shall mount Roose Bolton's head on a spike.
But the weather turned brutal, trapping Stannis' forces deep in snowdrifts for days. His horses began dying, supplies ran out, and the men were losing faith in his cause. That's when Melisandre reminded him that the fire god needed another sacrifice, hinting at his only daughter, Shireen. Stannis hated the idea, but he was desperate. So he went to Shireen and explained how he must fulfill his destiny. The innocent girl, who had no idea what his father had planned with the Red Priestess, said,
"It doesn't matter. I want to help you."
But when Melisandre dragged her out of her tent and forcefully tied her to the pyre, as Stannis' men watched in horror, she suddenly realized the consequences of her promise. She screamed for her father in the vain hopes that he would come and save her. But when he finally appeared, he simply stood there, silent and unmoving.
It's what the Lord wants. It's a good thing. A great thing.
Even though Shireen's mother never loved her, when she called out to her in desperation, her mother rushed towards her, trying to save her little girl. But she was too late, as Melisandre lit the pyre, just as Stannis' men grabbed Selyse, stopping her from helping her daughter. Shireen's painful, pitiful screams echoed in the frozen night, while her parents watched the flames burn their only heir. Stannis thought Shireen's sacrifice would make him king, but her death affected his cause in ways he had never expected, starting from his men who abandoned him overnight, disgusted by what he had done. Shireen's mother, Selyse, hanged herself the next morning after realizing what she had allowed. And even though Stannis marched on Winterfell, despite these setbacks, Ramsay quickly won, killing what remained of his army. As for Stannis, he was wounded and cornered when Brienne of Tarth found him and executed him for murdering Renly. But what if Stannis had refused to kill his daughter? What if Sir Davos had discovered Melisandre and Stannis' plan and secretly helped Shireen escape to Castle Black? The girl's kindness would become a breath of fresh air for the men of the Night's Watch, who would slowly grow to love and protect her as one of their own. And Stannis, realizing it was over, might have given up on his hopes to become a king and would eventually return to Castle Black. No longer a king, simply a father relieved to be reunited with his only heir. Myrcella Baratheon. Myrcella Baratheon was Robert and Cersei's eldest child, but we all know how she got her blonde hair. Side note, kind of crazy how big a theme incest is in Game of Thrones in general. Wild. Myrcella herself, though, was a kind and gentle girl, very different from the rest of her family. When Tyrion became Hand of the King, he advised using Myrcella to forge a political alliance with Dorne. Her wedding to Tristan Martell, the son of Prince Doran Martell, would not only give the Lannisters a powerful ally, but also keep the girls safe from the capital, which was threatened at the time by Stannis Baratheon and Robb Stark. But things took a turn for the darker when Oberyn Martell, who had come to Joffrey's wedding as Dorne's representative, volunteered to become Tyrion's champion during the trial for Joffrey's murder. His crushing defeat at the hands of Gregor Clegane infuriated Oberyn's distraught lover, Ilaria, and their daughters, known as the Sand Snakes. Kings. They demanded that Oberyn Martell declare war against the Iron Throne, but he refused.
But we do not mutilate little girls for vengeance.
So, Ellaria hatched a plot that would make the Lannisters declare war against Dorne instead. When Jaime and Bronn came to Dorne to take Myrcella back to King's Landing, Doran let them go on the condition that his son Tristan would go with them. But just as the party was about to leave, Ellaria stepped up to Myrcella and did something completely unexpected.
Forgive me, child. I wish you all the happiness in the world.
What everyone saw as a gesture of love was actually Ellaria's final act of vengeance. She had kissed the girl with poison lipstick, and while she took the antidote just in time, Myrcella wasn't so lucky. When their journey began, Jaime tried to tell Myrcella that she was his daughter, but she surprised him by saying,
I know. About you and Mother, I think a part of me always knew. And I'm glad.
In that tender moment, Myrcella hugged Jaime, leaving him speechless. It was the first time Jaime openly embraced any of his children as his own. It could have started a new chapter for both of their lives, but just as she pulled back to smile at her father, her nose began to bleed, and she collapsed on the floor.
Myrcella? Myrcella?
Ellaria's poison claimed the poor girl's life, as Jaime had just opened up to one of his children. But what if Ellaria didn't poison Myrcella? Myrcella's return to King's Landing would make Cersei, who was already imprisoned by the Faith of the Seven, incredibly happy. Maybe she wouldn't break the way she did after the Walk of Atonement. Without the grief that pushed her over the edge, she might never have spiraled into the madness that destroyed the Sept of Baelor. Tommen Baratheon. Tommen Baratheon was Cersei and Jaime Lannister's youngest son, who became king after Joffrey's death. That whole family, man. Tommen was young and innocent, qualities that turned him into a pawn for stronger forces like his own mother and Margaery Tyrell. From the moment Joffrey died, even Tywin began grooming Tommen into a king he could control, while Margaery manipulated him without him even realizing. But Cersei knew exactly what Margaery was trying to do, so after Tywin's death, she restored the Faith militant to counter the Tyrells' growing influence, giving the High Sparrows' religious movement more power than they had ever had before. She even had Margaery's brother, Sir Loras Tyrell, arrested for being gay. Later, at Loras's tribunal, Oliver, the spy working for Peter Baelish who pretended to be Loras' squire and lover, testified that Loras was guilty of homosexuality, and, on top of all that Margaery knew about it but lied to protect him. His testimony got both Loras and Margaery arrested by the Faith militant, turning Tommen's world upside down.
Bearing false witness before the gods is as grave a sin as any, my lady. Take her.
No! Tommen! Tommen!
Tommen was angry and frustrated that the High Sparrow held so much power over the king and queen, and he sank into a deep depression when the Faith arrested Cersei. But things changed when Margaery convinced him to embrace the Faith of the Seven, an act that spared her from the Walk of Atonement.
Together, we announce a new age of harmony, a holy alliance between the Crown and the Faith.
But Cersei was furious that Tommen sided with the Faith, and on the day of Margaery's trial, Sir Gregor forced him to stay in the chamber on Cersei's command. And as he stood at his window, he suddenly saw the Great Sept blow up, killing everyone inside, including his wife, Margaery. He kept staring at the burning Sept for some time, but he never screamed or cried. Instead, he remained silent at the death of his wife, the loss of his newfound faith, and the knowledge that his own mother was responsible for all of it. He realized that he had nothing to live for anymore, calmly took off his crown, and, without any hesitation, stepped out of his bedroom window to his death. With Tommen gone, Cersei lost her last child and the only legitimate Baratheon heir on the throne. The lack of a clear successor gave Cersei unrestrained power, but also heightened tensions across Westeros over what would happen next.
I now proclaim Cersei of the House Lannister, first of her name, Queen of the Andals and the First Men.
But what if Tommen didn't jump out of the window? Instead of just feeling helpless after Margaery's death, Tommen could have been enraged by Cersei's actions. If Tommen decided to take revenge, to get justice, he would pretend to be a grieving, obedient son. But behind the scenes, he would gather loyalists who despised Cersei, and let's be real, there were quite a few people who did just that. And when the time was right, he would order the Kingsguard to arrest her for crimes against the crown and faith. Taking away Cersei's power would be the perfect revenge for Tommen, who was used to being a pawn from the very beginning. Missandei. Missandei was from the island of Narth, but when she was only a child, slavers captured her and her brothers and sold them in the city of Astapor. When Daenerys Targaryen came to Astapor to buy the army of Unsullied, Missandei was there translating the deal to the slave master, and that's how the two of them met. When Dany's dragon killed the master and the Unsullied took control of the city under her command, Missandei joined Dany's cause, quickly turning into one of her most trusted advisors and friends. After Dany defeated the Night King at Winterfell, they sailed together towards King's Landing. However, their ships were attacked by Euron Greyjoy near Dragonstone. One of the great scorpions struck Dany's dragon, Rhaegal, a loss that forced Dany to fly away with her only remaining dragon, Drogon. With no one to protect Missandei and Dany's armies from Greyjoy's attack, the men suffered heavy losses as their fleet was blown to pieces. Countless soldiers drowned at sea, and those who managed to reach the shore were in a terrible state. As soon as Grey Worm washed ashore, he began searching desperately for Missandei, and that's when the truth dawned on him that Missandei had been captured. Dany gathered her forces and marched towards King's Landing, with Tyrion and Grey Worm by her side.
Queen Daenerys demands Cersei's unconditional surrender and the immediate release of Missandei of Narth.
Tyrion stepped forward first, trying to negotiate Missandei's release. He almost begged Cersei to think about her unborn child and surrender peacefully while she still could, but Cersei didn't care. Cruel and implacable, she turned towards Missandei and coldly ordered her to say her last words. Dany, who had already suffered too many losses, helplessly watched her closest friend in the enemy's hands. Missandei looked at Grey Worm, the man she loved, and then at Dany, the queen who set her free. And then she spoke her final words.
Dracarys!
The Mountain stepped forward and beheaded Missandei in one quick, violent strike. Missandei's execution crushed Grey Worm, who quickly looked away. But her death struck Dany differently. Now alone in a world ruled by deception, Dany realized that violence was the only way she could rule. But what if Cersei let Missandei go at Dany's request? Cersei's single act of diplomacy or mercy could have shifted everything dramatically. Tyrion would have used the moment to push her harder for a peaceful surrender, and with Missandei alive, Dany might actually listen. Missandei's release could have stopped Dany from spiraling into the fury and madness that eventually burned King's Landing, and Cersei along with it. Sir Jorah Mormont. Sir Jorah Mormont was originally sent to spy on Daenerys for King Robert, hoping to earn a royal pardon for his crimes. Even after Robert's death, he secretly kept working for Varys, but the longer he stayed by Daenerys' side, the more he admired her strength, compassion, and vision.
Blood of my blood.
Eventually, he stopped feeding Varys information, but when Daenerys found out about his betrayal, she banished him from her service. By then, Ser Jorah had fallen in love with Dany and was willing to do anything to earn her forgiveness, from risking his life to capture Tyrion to saving her in the fighting pits of Meereen and enduring another exile after contracting grayscale.
Well, I command you to find the cure, wherever it is in this world. I command you to heal yourself and then return to me.
When Jorah returned, Dany valued his loyalty and his pledge to stay by her side to the very end. That promise came true at the Battle of Winterfell. Daenerys was riding Drogon, burning whites from a safe distance, but when the Night King raised the dead inside Winterfell's walls, swarms of whites leapt onto Drogon, clawing and stabbing at him. The dragon became overwhelmed and shook everyone off, including Daenerys, and flew away from the terrifying scene, leaving Daenerys stranded on the ground, weaponless and exposed. She wasn't alone for long. Jorah placed himself between her and thousands of whites and kept fighting, refusing to back down. Daenerys, who had never fought in close combat before, tried to defend herself clumsily with a small blade and kept reaching out to Jorah to make sure he was okay. But Daenerys could sense Jorah's time was running out. At the very moment Arya killed the Night King, ending the battle, Jorah collapsed to the ground. Daenerys dropped to her knees beside him, pulling Jorah into her arms as she cried over her fallen knight. In those final moments, Jorah died in the arms of the woman he loved. Jorah had been Dany's constant anchor, someone who'd supported her when she doubted herself, always reminded her to choose compassion over war. Jorah's loss was a shattering blow for Dany and pushed her into emotional isolation, eventually taking her down a darker path in King's Landing. But what if Ser Jorah survived the Whites that night? His strategic mind and combat skills could have helped protect Missandei from being captured, and even if he had failed, just like Grey Worm, Jorah might have tempered Daenerys' anger after Missandei's death, perhaps even preventing the attack on King's Landing altogether. Maester Luwin. Maester Luwin was the resident Maester of Winterfell, serving House Stark for many years. He was deeply trusted by Eddard and Catelyn Stark and helped raise the Stark children with wisdom and good manners. When Catelyn and Robb marched south to free his father, Luwin took care of Bran and Rickon in their absence. But when Theon Greyjoy seized the castle with the Ironborn, the children's world was turned upside down. Despite Theon's betrayal, Maester Luwin continued to counsel him, trying to steer him in the right direction. Even when Ramsay Bolton's forces surrounded the castle, Luwin advised him to run away to save himself.
What's your counsel, trusted friend?
Run.
Theon didn't run away, and instead tried to prepare his forces for the Boltons' attack. However, while he was still in the middle of his speech, one of his own men hit him on the head, knocking him out. Maester Luwin immediately came to Theon's rescue, but Dagmar Cleftjaw stabbed him at the same time, wounding him.
What is this? What are you doing?
But even after being mortally wounded, Maester Luwin helped Bran and Rickon escape with Hodor and Osha, away from the Boltons' cruelty.
They may come back. You have to go. Put on your warmest clothes. Pack as much food as you can carry and go north.
But just before Osha led the kids away, Maester Luwin quietly requested her to end his suffering.
Do it quickly.
But what if Dagmar never stabbed Maester Luwin, and he travelled north with Bran and Rickon? With his guidance, Rickon would never be sent to the last hearth alone, only to be betrayed by the Umbers. The Boltons would not be able to use Rickon as bait when Jon Snow marched on Winterfell. And in that version of events, the youngest Stark just might have survived. Who else do you think deserves to be on this list? Let us know in the comments below, and check out our video on every person who truly did deserve to die in Game of Thrones to get the other side of the coin. I promise you, it's some wonderful popcorn viewing and worthy of a watch. Until next time, see you around.